Dear students, I am Dr. Priyadarsini with you today to teach on the topic Tools of Management. In today's class, we are going to learn a short introduction on the management, the objectives, the different tools of management and its importance in food service industries. To introduce, the success of any food service industry is highly determined by its quality of management. In fact, growth and survival of all the food service outlets largely depends on its management concepts and management tool it adopts. What is management? Management is an art of getting things done through people. It involves both the action of thinking and doing a work. Thinking is a top-level function of management. It involves planning, policy making, and goal setting. Thinking is done at managerial level. Doing is a lower level of function. Doing is performance of work and it is done at operational level. A manager may perform both the actions or either of these. Let me make it clear with an example. A housekeeping manager gives a list of cleaning procedures to be performed in a guest room. A housekeeper actually does the cleaning procedure. Here, the manager plans a task, whereas the housekeeper does the task at operational level. To combine the effort of these two workers towards achieving a common goal, certain standardized methods are essential. Yes, we call these methods as management tools. So how do we define management tools? Tools of management refers to the methods and techniques developed and adopted by management professionals which are being practiced till date extensively to run an organization effectively. Adoption of these tools varies from institutions to institutions and at different levels of management. With this brief introduction, this current module will enable you to gain knowledge on various tools of management and its importance in food service industry. Students, let us now learn the different tools of management in detail. Basically, there are 10 common tools of management. They are organizational chart, job description, job specification, work schedule, job analysis, budget, leadership styles, training, decision making and communication. Keep it in mind that each tool plays a significant role in the management of a food service. Let us start with the organizational chart. You must have heard this term, isn't it? An organizational chart is a blueprint of an entire team of employees working in an organization at various positions. This chart tells us the position, power of authority, the nature of work, the relationship between a superior and a subordinate, and of course the order of decision making. Generally, by looking at an organizational chart, one can make out who reports under whom. Also, we can clearly understand the direction of communication. The following illustration will help us to understand better. Look at this organizational chart of a small hotel. The function and the position of an employee in an organizational chart is always depicted in a form of a block. The formal nature of authority and relationship is always depicted in bold lines, and the informal relationship between the employees is usually represented in dotted lines. Also, can you see from the chart that the power of authority and decision making lies within the owner of the eatery? You can also see that the cook and the waiter reports directly to the owner, whereas the assistant cook and the helper reports to the cook and the waiter respectively. Students observe that the authority and responsibility in both the cases are passed downward. From the chart, you can also observe that there is an existence of formal line of relationship between the owner, cook, assistant cook and the helper, and an informal relationship between the cook and the waiter. In an organizational chart, the line of communication flows in two directions, both vertically and horizontally. In vertical direction, the superior person assigned works with suitable power of authority to his immediate subordinate. Whereas in a horizontal direction, the position of employees in the same line indicates equal responsibility and power of delegation under different work areas. An organizational chart can be made up of both vertical as well as horizontal direction depending on the size and the type of organization. Smaller the organization, more vertical the chart will be. When an organization grows, the length of the organizational chart also increases and the duties and responsibilities gets divided horizontally into different work areas or departments as you see in this chart. The organizational chart also indicates whether the power of authority and delegation is centralized or decentralized. If all the decision making pertaining to the management of food service is taken up by a top level of officials, it is said to be centralized in nature. In contrary, when all the employees at different levels are involved in decision making, then it is said to be decentralized in nature. Students, since an organizational chart indicates an employee on the authority, relationship, positions and power of decision making in an organization, it is considered to be one of the most important tools of management. Was that clear? Can we move on to job description, the next tool of management? Job description in a food service industry refers to a brief detailing of job to be done by an employee specific to his work area. A clearly described job certainly increases the performance level of an employee. While describing a job, care must be taken to make it simple and easy to understand. Remember, usage of scientific terms and vague descriptions may make an employee frustrated as it may not be difficult for him to understand. Also, never detail each and every aspect of the job as it will not enthuse the creativity level of an employee and it will result in monotony of work. Go through this job description of a waiter. What do you understand from this? Yes, you got your clues right. When describing a job at operational level, that is for the waiter, it has to be clearly detailed in depth in the language which can be easily followed by them. Whereas at managerial level, a brief detailing like this will do, since the employee has the benefit of having a face-to-face conversation with the superior. Job description therefore informs an employee the work standards expected out of him before and after recruitment. Also, it channelizes him to the correct path of work culture. I hope you are now clear with job description. Having seen on job description, it's time for us to understand the importance of job specification. In a food service organization, job specification refers to the criteria of standards expected from an employee for a particular job. Look at the job specification of the waiter I have given. Can you understand that a job specification is all about academic qualification, experience, competency skills and requirements of personal standards? Students, never forget that a job specification will also inform an employee on working times and scope for professional growth. Many a times, job description is used as an alternate of job specification to meet out performance standards. Since a job specification helps a food service organization to stick on to its standards, don't you now agree that it is also an important tool of management? Yeah, I can see all your heads nodding in acceptance. Okay, what next? A manager does sequencing of work to be performed within a given period of time, as you see in this table. Since the sequence of work is handed over to the employee much before the work gets started, an employee can comprehend the work clearly and perform the task beautifully with minimum instruction. Work schedule. Work schedule is a discrete means of mapping a task for an employee with a stipulated time frame. Generally, it is also termed as time or activity plan. While scheduling a work, the food service manager should take into account the low and peak periods of working hours. I hope you will agree with me that the low period of work in a restaurant will be between 10:30 to 11:30 in the morning and between 6 and 7 in the evening, where the clientele visit will be less compared to the peak hours of lunch and dinner. Keep in mind that it is always wise to schedule tasks which requires less time and effort during these low period of working hours. Plan important tasks during the peak periods to ensure better work efficiency. Complicated and challenging tasks should be given during early hours when the employees are fresh and energetic. To be precise, work scheduling helps the management to tap the maximum potential of an employee by effective utilization of resources and time. And it also maximizes the work efficiency. We have now come to the next tool of management, the job analysis. Evaluation of various components of a job at frequent intervals to ascertain the area of improvement and performance level is called job analysis. Job analysis enhances work efficiency, simplifies a task, identifies overlapping of work and requirement for upgradation of technology and equipment. Dear students, the first step in job analysis is to split the job into smaller units. Followed by this, construction of a pathway chart in sequential order to analyze the time and energy consumed in performing a task is done. And finally, the evaluation of job in terms of men, material, equipment, employee skill and profitability is evaluated. To make it simpler, let me explain it to you with an example of doing a job analysis for preparing bhaji. Look at this given example. Can you see that the task of preparing bhaji is split into smaller jobs like collection of ingredients, slicing of vegetables and so on? You can also find that the preparation of bhaji is given in sequential order. By looking at this job analysis, what do you understand? Yes, you're right. Step 3 and 4 can be combined together to save time. That is, the preparation of batter and preheating of oil can be done simultaneously to save time. Interesting, isn't it? I hope you will agree with me that this analysis has paved way for a smooth flow of work and conservation of time and energy. Students, just to recapitulate, so far we have seen 5 tools of management, namely the organizational chart, job description, job specification, work scheduling and job analysis. We have 5 more to go. So the next management tool that we are going to learn is budget. Budget is the projected financial allocation of funds for the successful operation of any business. It helps an institution to fix up its targets, manpower requirements, volume of sales, and anticipated expenditure in terms of purchase and maintenance. Since food service industry is highly perishable, budgeting is considered as an important tool of management. Normally, a food service industry plans three types of budget. They are a master budget, capital and cash budget, and operating budget. Master budget is a budget inclusive of both capital and operating budget. Allocation of funds made on fixed assets and debtor stocks are called capital budget. Sometimes they are also referred to as fixed budget because the amount to be spent is fixed at the beginning and cannot be changed. Similarly, allocation of funds on sales, manpower, overheads, food, and other resources are called operating budgets. They are also called as flexible budgets since the allocation of funds can be altered according to the requirements. Generally, operating budgets are planned based on the previous sales volume and expenditure. Having seen on budget, let me take you to the most important tool of management, the leadership. It is a well-known fact that the growth and success of any food service industry solely depends on the quality of its leader. Be it any kind of food service industry, the task of setting a mission and a vision and chasing the dreams of all the employees towards achieving the common goal through proper direction and coordination is possible only with a good leadership. According to Kate Davis, leadership is the ability to persuade others to seek defined objectives enthusiastically. Leadership qualities are sometimes inherited by birth. They are also acquired from training. Leadership styles are of various types, and its execution purely depends on the situation. Generally, there are three different types of leadership styles. They are autocratic leadership, democratic leadership, and free reign. Let me explain it to you one after the other. Autocratic leadership. An autocratic leader always takes up the role of deciding all the policies and course of actions to be taken in a food service organization. He always dictates terms and conditions on how, when, where, and by whom a task has to be performed. He is strict and gives very little freedom to the employees. The simple message that he conveys to his employee is that follow my instruction or else, meaning the employee to face the consequences if he does not obey him. Sometimes an autocratic leader can also be a benevolent person. Autocratic leadership has both merits and demerits. The merits are generally they bring lot of efficiency into the system. Since instructions are given by only one person, it saves time and it's easy to understand. And the demerits are, since the communication is one way, it often leads to ambiguity and is prone for more errors. There is no scope for feedback from employees and hence very little corrective measures can be made. On the whole, it sets a very low morale and productivity in the system. It also brings monotony with restriction in innovation and creativity. A democratic leader exhibits participative approach in the function of food service industry. Duties and responsibilities are given to all the employees with assigned authority right from the goal setting. Employees enjoy all the freedom of action at all levels and has a scope for creativity and innovation. It also encourages team building and limits interpersonal conflicts. Unlike the autocratic leadership, Even in the absence of a democratic leader, a food service can function efficiently since the individuals are aware of their responsibilities. The merits of this leadership styles are, since it encourages participatory approach, each and every personnel works hard to achieve the goal. It cultivates a high level of motivation. Leaders have the benefit of receiving innovative ideas with enthusiastic workforce. Also, it fosters excellent communication networking within the food service institution and creates an equal platform for all employees to develop and grow with the organization. The demerits are time consuming if not executed properly, and sometimes leader may misuse this leadership style to shred their responsibilities. I am sure you would have understood the difference between an autocratic leader and a democratic leader. Shall we now move on to the next leadership style? A free rein leader does not have any control on his employees. This type of leadership quality is highly dangerous because the employees may not know what is expected out of them and are free to start their own objectives. The demerits are organizational objectives are not defined and hence cannot be achieved. Since the employees are deprived of command and directions, it leads to wastage of time. It creates poor work environment with low motivational level and results in low productivity. Remember that a good leadership style will take the food service industry to a high level of success. As a future food service managers, you should always try to strike a balance in adopting these leadership styles. Training is the process of enhancing the competency and the skill of an employee to perform a particular job. Generally, an employee gets trained in specific skills according to his job specification. Since the hospitality industry keeps changing in tune to customers' expectations, training plays a very important role in food service industry. It nurtures the employees with right attitude of work. Training imparts self-confidence and work efficiency among employees and hence is considered as an important management tool. It also brings out the best potential of an employee. Students, for any in-depth knowledge on training, refer Module 21. Can we now move on to the next tool of management, the decision making? Decision making, the mental process of choosing a best course of action between two or more options is termed as decision making. Food service industry call for decision making at all levels and it is practiced by all employees. Any food service personnel, be it a food and beverage manager or a waiter, makes two types of decisions, namely the routine and strategic decisions. Decisions which are taken spontaneously without much of thinking are called routine decisions. Example, topping a pizza. Routine decisions are usually repetitive in nature and are also called as programmed decisions since the decision making process does not vary. On the other hand, decisions that are made after a series of thinking and evaluations are called strategic decisions. This decision making process differs from one individual to another based on the situation. Example, solving a guest problem. These decisions are also called as non-programmed decisions. These decisions are generally taken during emergency and crucial circumstances. Care must be taken when making a decision since one cannot see the impact of decisions immediately. Students, be aware that a bad decision will always lead to loss of reputation, waste of time and manpower. Hoping that you will be a good decision maker in future, let us now move on to the 10th and the final tool of management, communication. Communication is defined as an exchange of facts, ideas, opinion or emotion between two personals. In simpler terms, communication literally means passing and interpretation of information between individuals. It is true that food service institution cannot survive without an effective communication. Communication in a food service takes place between the managers and subordinate, between the employees and between the guest and employees. Food service personnel should be well versed in using the following types of communication. Verbal communication. We are familiar with this, isn't it? We communicate through speech. In written communication, we communicate by means of letters, emails, policies, rules, guidelines, notes and etc. Many a times we communicate through our body gestures. We normally use facial expressions coupled with different tones of voice and emotions, isn't it? Sometimes we do communicate through silence. Silence communicates the feeling of frustration, worry, mental agony, disapproval and dejection. An effective communication system in a food service will foster healthy work environment, will improve the interdepartmental relationship and will lead to customer satisfaction. It will also reduce ambiguity and promotes organizational growth. For further reading on communication, you may refer Communication in Food Service Industry in detail in Module 16 and 22. To summarize, let us remember that all the 10 tools of management, namely the organizational chart, job description, job specification, work schedule, job analysis, budget, leadership styles, training, decision making and communications are the pillar of any successful business. A judicious adoption of these tools will definitely make you a good manager.